I am making an update to my relinquished deck just because I actually managed to make it much more playable thanks to the help of one of my friends. And I finally managed to get everything I needed for the more playable version that I actually really like a lot more. And overall, it's a really fun deck, although a lot of my friends do not like one of my friends don't like that I'm doing this just because he hates one of the engines I'm using. But I actually really like it. So, starting out with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Relinquished. Relinquished has the effect that once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls, equip it to it, and then it gains attack and defense equal to that monster's original attack and defense. And then Relinquished also has the effect that if it would be destroyed by battle. Is it just battle or is it also card effect? I can never remember if it's card effect too. I believe it's just battle. Yeah. If you'd be destroyed in battle, you destroy the equipped monster instead. And any battle damage you would take from battles involving Relinquished, your opponent takes instead. And then it must first be special summoned by the effect of Black Illusion Ritual, which lets you ritual summon Relinquished. But usually when you're summoning this, you're going to summon it, take an opponent's monster, link it off, maybe for Relinquished Anima, take another opponent's monster, and then link off Anima. And next, I play 3 copies of Millennium Eyes Illusionist. Millennium Eyes Illusionist has the effect that, as a quick effect, you can discard it, target a monster your opponent controls, and equip it to a Relinquished or a Eyes Restrict fusion monster as if it was equipped by that monster's effect. And then Millennium Eyes Illusionist also has the mandatory effect of if this card is in your graveyard and you summon a Relinquished or Eyes Restrict fusion monster, add this card to your hand. Which one thing I actually like doing with it is activating the Black Illusion Ritual, tribute Millennium Eyes Illusionist, summon a Relinquished, and Illusionist's effect mandatory returns it to your hand. Just that way you don't have to use other cards. However, it does let your opponent know you have a Millennium Eyes Illusionist. And then next, I play 1 copy of Illusionist Faceless Magician. Illusionist Faceless Magician has the effect that if a Relinquished or Eyes Restrict fusion monster is destroyed, you can summon this card from your graveyard or hand, as long as it was already in the graveyard or was in your hand after it was destroyed. And then Illusionist Faceless Magician also has the effect that if it's destroyed, you can summon an Eyes Restrict fusion monster or Relinquished from your graveyard. And you can only use each effect of Illusionist Faceless Magician once per turn. Forgot to mention, Millennium Eyes Illusionist is also a hard once per turn with both its effects. And then next, I play 3 copies of Magician's Souls. Magician's Souls has the effect that you can special summon it from your hand, or special summon from your hand. You send a level 6 or higher spellcast from your deck to the graveyard, which I believe, unfortunately, Illusionist Faceless Magician is level 5, otherwise it would have been perfect. But you send a level 6 or higher spellcast from your deck to grave, and they can activate 1 or 2 effects. In this deck, you'll only ever summon Magician's Souls. And then once per turn, you can send up to 2 spell or trap cards from your hand or field to the graveyard, and then draw 1 card for each card you sent. And you can only use each effect of Magician's Souls once per turn. Then I play 2 copies of Illusion of Chaos. Illusion of Chaos has the effect that, in this deck, its only effect is you reveal it, add a monster that mentions Dark Magician from your deck to your hand, and then you place a card in your hand on top of your deck. Usually it's going to be Illusion of Chaos, because you'll send a Chaos to summon a Magician's Souls. And you can only use that effect of Illusion of Chaos once per turn. And then next is the reason a lot of my friends are actually kind of don't like that this is actually a thing I made. But I also play 3 copies. 1 copy of Keba Senuef, Happy, and Dwamatef. These 3 each have the same effect of they can be special summoned from your graveyard as long as you control a King's Sarcophagus. And then they each have their own unique effects that are triggered when your opponent sends a card on your field to the graveyard. Keba Senuef is by far the worst of these 3. Even the other 2 Horus monsters, Keba Senuef is by far the worst, as it makes it so your opponent cannot target your Horus monsters with card effects, nor can they be targeted for attacks. Happy lets you take 2 cards that are on the field they're in the graveyard or banished, add them to their owner's hand, And then Duamatef has the effect that you get to draw one card for every other monster. Is it every other? But you get to draw a card for every monster in the main monster zones that has a different name. Let's see, draw cards. Okay, so yeah, it does include itself. And then the other thing with Duamatef is Duamatef gains 1,200 attack points for each Horus monster you control. So by itself, it's 1,200. If you have all three, it's 36. If you have the other two, then it is, I believe, 6,000. Then next, I play 3 copies of Imseti, Glory of Horus. Imseti has the effect you can discard it and another card to then be able to add a King Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand, and then you can draw one card. And then Imseti also has the effect of you can be able to just send one card on the field to the graveyard. I really like the Horus cards because between 3 of their cards, you have 8 cards that just let you just send things, which I absolutely love. You can only use each of the effects of these Horus monsters once per turn. Next, I play 2 copies of Horus the Black Flame Deity. Horus the Black Flame Deity has the effect that if you control King Sarcophagus and a Horus monster, you can reveal its card, discard a card, and then send one card your opponent controls to the graveyard. And then if a card on your field other than a Horus, or I think it has to be other than a Horus and a King Sarcophagus. Let's see. A face-up Horus monster you control except Horus the Black Flame Deity, or a face-up King Sarcophagus you control. So it has to be a Horus or a Sarcophagus. You get a special summons card from your graveyard, and if you do, destroy all other monsters on the field. So I really like that because if your opponent decides to just destroy King Sarcophagus while this card's in your graveyard, you can just summon it and dark hole the board. And then lastly for the monsters, I play 1 copy of Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. This deck is only in here for a trap card I'll get to later. For these spells, I play 1 copy of Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion lets you pay 1,000 life points to special summon a level 4 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck that cannot attack and is destroyed at the end of the turn. Next, I play 2 copies of Black Illusion Ritual. Black Illusion Ritual just lets you ritual summon relinquished by tributing monsters whose total levels equal 1. Next, I play 3 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites. Pre-Preparation of Rites just lets you can only activate once per turn, but lets you add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, and then you can add a ritual monster that's mentioned by that ritual spell. Next, I play 3 copies of Relinquished Fusion. Relinquished Fusion... Whoops, accidentally hit the camera. But Relinquished Fusion has the effect where you can fusion summon an Ice Restrict Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing monsters from your hand, field, or graveyard. And then during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard to then target a... I know it's a monster your opponent controls, but I don't know if it also lets you target a monster in your opponent's graveyard. Okay, you target a monster your opponent controls, equip it to a Relinquished or Ice Restrict Fusion monster you control, as if it was equipped by that monster's effect. And you can only use each effect of Relinquished Fusion once per turn. Next, I play 3 copies of Walls of the Imperial Tomb. Walls of the Imperial Tomb has the effect that the card's name becomes King Sarcophagus while it's on the field, and then once per turn you can add a Horus monster from your deck to your hand, and then you can take 1 card from your hand and place it at the bottom of the deck. And then its last effect is if you activate the effect of Horus the Black Flame Deity, you can draw 1 card. Which, the main thing I like about that last effect is that it's not, or at least I don't believe it's a once per turn. Quick. Okay, the draw effect of Walls of the Imperial Tomb is not a hard once per turn. So if you're able to use both effects of Horus the Black Flame Deity, then you get to draw 2 cards if it's the same turn. Normally, the way it would work is you would draw a card on your turn, and you'll activate Horus on your opponent's turn when they get rid of King's Sarcophagus, so then you'll get to draw another card. And then lastly, I play 3 copies of King's Sarcophagus. King's Sarcophagus has the effect that up to 4 times per turn, you can discard a card to send a Horus monster from your deck to the graveyard. And then it also makes it so your Horus monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects unless they specifically target it. And then its last effect is actually a soft once per turn. If your Horus monster battles an opponent's monster, you can activate King's Sarcophagus effect to then be able to send that monster to the graveyard. While it is a soft once per turn, I've never actually seen anyone use that effect more than once per turn, which I'm actually kind of surprised about, as that effect is a soft once per turn. Soft meaning if you have multiple copies, you can use that effect multiple times per copy. Or you can use it once per copy. Anyway, for the traps, I play 3 copies of Canopic Protector. Canopic Protector has the effect that once per chain, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can summon a Horus monster from your graveyard. However, you cannot summon Horus monsters with that card's name by its effect for the rest of the turn. And then its other effect is if it is sent from the field or hand to the graveyard, you can activate its effect to reset it. However, it is banished when it leaves the field. You'll use that effect of Canopic Protector once per turn. And lastly, for the traps, I play 3 copies of Rainbow Bridge of Salvation. Rainbow Bridge of Salvation is only in this deck for its grave effect. You can discard it to then be able to add a Crystal Beast and a field spell from your deck to your hand. So what you do is you will you'll send this to grave, activate its effect to banish it, to then be able to add a field spell, so the Walls of the Imperial Tomb and Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. And I guess technically it doesn't have to be Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, it can be any Crystal Beast you want. But I guess, I don't know why I used Rainbow Dragon, but the only downside of this card is that that effect is a hard once per duel. But because of this card, I also have in my side deck Secret Village of Spellcasters, because this is a relinquished deck, so the main thing you're going to summon is Spellcasters. And which Secret Village of Spellcasters has the effect that if you control a spellcaster, your opponent doesn't, your opponent cannot activate spells. But if you don't have a spellcaster, you can't activate spells. But your opponent can. And then I also side Necro Valley, which you want to be careful with Necro Valley in this deck, as if Necro Valley is in play, your Horus monsters cannot summon themselves, as Necro Valley just makes it so that cards cannot be moved from the graveyard. So usually what you'll do is you'll set up a board, then activate Necro Valley, and then hope for the best. I say that, but usually your board will be something like Hope Harbinger, Number 90, Millennium Eyes. And that's a very strong board to have against decks like Snake Eye, where they really need their graveyard. And then the last field spell I play in my side deck is Zombie World, which makes all monsters on the field and graveyard become zombie. And neither player can tribute summon except for the tribute summon of a zombie monster. This deck is a tribute, so it's really good against decks that either tribute summon a lot or require their monsters to be a specific type. So if you change it to zombie, then they just can't play. So that's the main reason of this. But if you don't want to do that, then you can easily just take out the 3 Salvations and the Crystal Beast and put in something like Terraforming and one other card that would be useful. Or instead of those, so you can just play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. But that is it for the main deck. The main deck is 42 cards. Moving on to the extra deck, I play 2 copies of Relinquished Anima. Relinquished Anima has the effect that once per turn, you can target a monster in a zone this card points to, equip it to this card, and then it gains attack equal to that monster's original attack. One other thing I really like about this card is the fact that its art It is just an upside down relinquished. And I absolutely love that. And then I also play one copy of IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena has the effect that if it's used for the link summon of a link monster, that link monster cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And then during the main phase, IP Masquerena has the quick effect of being able to link summon using this link monster you control. And then I also play one copy of Barricade Board Blocker. Barricade Board Blocker has the effect that while it's on the field, your face-up spell cards cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And then when it's summoned, you can discard a card so that during the end phase, you can add a continuous or field spell from your graveyard to your hand. Then I play one copy of SP Little Knight. If you can't afford SP Little Knight, a good option to replace it would be something like Nightmare Unicorn, Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, Nightmare Phoenix, or even another rank 8 because of the Horus cards. But SP Little Knight has the effect that when it's link summoned using a monster from the extra deck, you can target one card your opponent controls or in the graveyard and banish it. And then if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can chain Little Knight's effect to banish a monster from both sides of the field until the end phase. You can only use each effect of SP Little Knight once per turn. For the Xyz monsters, I play one copy of number 23, Lancelot, Dark Knight of the Underworld. Lancelot has the effect that while it has materials, it can attack your opponent directly. And then, when a card or effect is activated, other than Lancelot's effect, it detaches a material to then be able to negate that effect, the effect card's activation. The only downside is that negation is a mandatory negate. So you want to be really careful when you have this card in play, as it will negate the very first thing that's played, whether it's yours or your opponent's. And I want to say it has another effect. Okay, and its last effect is when it deals damage, you target one monster your opponent controls and destroy it. Next, I play one copy of number 90, Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. Photon Lord is just a monster negate by detaching material. Then I play one copy of Dingirsu. Dingirsu has the effect when it's Xyz summoned, you can target one card your opponent controls, send to the grave, or as I believe it targets. Nope, you just send one card your opponent controls to the graveyard. And then its other effects is if a card or cards on your field be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach material instead. Then I play one copy of Kosh King Giant Trainer. Giant Trainer has the effect that up to thrice per turn, 3 times per turn if you don't know what thrice means. But you can you detach material, draw a card, reveal it, and if it was a monster, your opponent takes 800 damage. However, if you use this effect, you cannot conduct your battle phase. Then I play one copy of number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Titanic Galaxy has the effect that when your opponent activates a spell card, or the effect of a spell card, you can negate the effect and then attach it to Hope Harbinger as material. And then if your opponent's monster declares attack, like on SP Little Knight, you can activate Hope Harbinger's effect to then be able to redeclare the attack on itself. Then I play one copy of number 1, Infection Buzz King. Buzz King has the effect where you can detach material, or when it's Xyz summoned, you look at your opponent's extra deck, send a card to the graveyard. Then you can detach a material to then target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. And then if it was a face-up monster, your opponent will take damage equal to half its original attack point. Or half its original attack. Half its attack on field. And its last effect is, during your standby phase, you can take one card from your opponent's graveyard and attach it as material. For the fusion monsters, I play one copy of Thousand Eyes Restrict. Thousand Eyes Restrict has the effect that once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls, equip it to this card. It gains attack and defense equal to that monster's original attack and defense. Other monsters on the field are not allowed to attack. There's a reason Thousand Eyes Restrict is at 1. Or as I believe it's still at 1. And then I also play 3 copies of Millennium Eyes Restrict. Millennium Eyes Restrict is the main fusion monster you want to be making in this deck, as Millennium Eyes Restrict has the effect that when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can activate Millenniumized Restricts effect to then be able to target a monster your opponent controls or in their graveyard and equip it to this card. And then it gains attack and defense equal to the combined attack and defense of monsters equipped to it. And its final effect is the effects of your opponent's monsters that have the same name as an equipped card are negated. So if you have this in play and you activate something like Mseti's effect, discarding itself and another card to get King's Sarcophagus to draw a card, your opponent ashes, you can activate Millenniumized effect to equip the ash to itself, and then ash is now negated. And that is it for my relinquished deck profile. If you have any ideas of what I can do to improve the deck, any ideas for decks I can see being made in the future, or decks I can see face each other, feel free to comment down below. I always read the comments. Thank you for watching.